Jessie Ennis, co-star of Apple TV Plus's Mythic Quest. Welcome to Awards Daily. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. So I'd like to talk to you obviously about Joe, who is a force of nature across both seasons, a lot of fun. How close to your own personality is Joe?
Luckily, I can say she's nothing like me. The only thing we have in common is that we look like me. um, but yeah, she's nothing like me, and I'm proud of that. It is shocking to know that Rob wrote this character for me, and I was like, what did you see in me that inspired you to write this total psychopath? But it's a blast to get to play. And there are definitely times where I feel like I get to like exercise some rage that I didn't know I had, and I go home feeling like I had a really good therapy session because I get to just be a monster to everybody in the scenes.
So given that, and certainly as you're talking now, I can see there's no commonality between you and Joe. So tremendous performance. I'm even more impressed.
Thank
So
you.
how do you find Joe? How do you channel that rage? Do you just keep everything bottled up for a while and then let it loose on set?
No, I've created a really rich backstory for Joe. It's like there's a part of me that's just such a theater nerd still from elementary school. And so like in elementary school, I would get cast as like one of the smaller parts in the play. And then I would realize like, well, I could have so much fun for weeks forming a backstory for this character that is acting. Like all of that stuff feeds into my choices on stage or on screen. And so for Joe, I did a very similar thing where in the first season we didn't have a lot to go off of, and so I would take clues from the script. Like she says, I can get you heads, not human. And so I just like built a whole character around her. What kind of heads is she talking about? Where did she get used to collecting heads? And like what is her, where did she begin? So I love kind of starting from kind of like like what a therapist would say about my characters. So I think about like their parents and their upbringing, what their home life is like, where they live, what their commute to work is like, what their morning routines are, all these kinds of like fun just trivia to fill in for my character. And then when it comes to acting, it's just so helpful to have all the stuff to pull from, because especially on a show like ours where we get to do so much improv, it's great to feel really rooted in a character where you can then like soar and really fly within their skin.
So what makes Joe tick? What is it? Is it rage? Is that the primary emotion?
I think she's very rageful. I think she also has a lot of envy. I think she really presents herself as someone who doesn't care what other people think about her, but I think deep down she does care. She really wants to impress people. She wants to impress her parents. She wants Ian within the company to think that she's doing a really great job. She says at one point in the first season, David asks her, "What do you want to do?" And she says, "The same thing I do every day: help people achieve their goals." Which is funny because we watch how she does that. Her toolbox is poisoned. She has these good intentions to like get the job done, but then the way that she does that is like threatening a 14-year-old and telling people terrible things about themselves or screaming at the testers to get them to go back to work. It's not productive. It's not a good workplace environment. She's not someone you want to work with, but it's fun to watch on television.
So she defines herself in terms of the power structure by so many men there. She idolizes Ian. She aligns herself with in this season Danny Pudi's character Brad. Do you think she'll ever realize that she can stand on her own? That she's powerful enough to do that?
I love that question. I hope so. I think that'd be really fun. I hope before she does that, we get to watch her get trained by a handful of the characters. I really am hoping that at some point I get paired up with Charlotte McDowell and that Joe and Poppy get to be paired and watch that dynamic flourish, because they both really don't respect each other. And so I think it'd be really funny to watch how they would work together in a boss assistant dynamic. Um, but yeah, I can imagine towards the end of the show, she feels secure in herself and she doesn't need to help anyone else. She's ready to. I think her end goal is to actually run the company, and it's funny because we know she may not know anything about video games, but she has a real confidence.
Yes, she does. I love my favorite scenes over season two have been your scenes with Danny Pudi's Brad.
Thank
Just
you.
it's such a bizarre dynamic, but a wonderfully fertile comic dynamic. Tell me about working with him and sort of pairing up to do those scenes.
It was great. Danny is a really he's just a really reliable scene partner. He's very generous. And the two of us did a lot of prep work together. So we figured out how to walk next to each other and funny ways to pace ourselves, and then physical things that we could do to have Joe start to mirror Brad. And we had conversations with the hair and makeup department, the wardrobe department, ways in which our characters could start to align physically on top of like their mannerisms. And that was all really fun. And then when it actually came down to shooting, it was just a blast. He's so talented. We're both really malleable. We respond really well to direction. And so we love the two of us really love like taking a note and then completely restructuring the scene and seeing how that note would put a new wash on top of like the watercolor that we're painting. You know, that's a very pompous way of saying that we're artists of comedy. But yeah, working with him is a blast, and he's so talented, and so it makes my job so much easier when all I really have to do is play off of him.
I think that you have a tremendous gift for physical comedy, and you know,
Thank
as
you.
primary example of that is when you're one of the earlier scenes in the season where you're walking down the hall and you've got the laptop, and then all of a sudden he says something and you throw it in the trash can. I know you've tried that several times over. How do those moments come up? How do those wonderful physical comedy moments come up? Are they scripted, or do you work through them in scenes at rehearsal with other cast members?
It goes both ways. So there are some days where there isn't something super physical in the script and we go to block it, and we just find these like little gems of opportunities, you know, Charlotte falling on the ground or me running through the hallway with the coffee in the first season. That wasn't scripted at all. That was a David Gordon Green. He called me and he was like, "You're not on the call sheet today, but I think you should come in and we'll just find some things to do around the office." And we shot that in like 3 minutes. And then of course it became like a pretty crucial element to Joe and something that we had in the trailer and stuff. But yeah, it can come from anywhere. There are definitely times where David Hornsby has some like physical comedy bit he wants someone else to do, and so he'll like give it to you as a gift. And then there are times like with the computer that was scripted, but we didn't know where the trash can would be or how we would time it out. And so the way that we ended up doing it was really funny in that it was just something that they were walking past, and so she had to toss it and keep moving. But I love physical comedy. I always have. And I went through a phase where I was, my knee was really injured. And I remember being like, but am I ever going to get to do a pratfall again? I was like, all I care about is like launching my body. And I'm just a goofball and I love it. I grew up watching I Love Lucy and always really idolizing Lucille Ball and the way that she used her body in acting.
I want to go back to that original comment about that rage. Where does that rage, you think, come from in Joe? Like, you talked about having a backstory for her. Do you have like is it a tormented childhood backstory? Is it,
Yes,
where does that come from?
I mean, I've got a lot of silly little like trivia that I've formed for Joe. One element is that her parents wanted a boy, and so she was born into a family that was already disappointed with her when she was born. And then you know, there are funny things that you craft as an actor that then you get the script and it might contradict something that you had created, and so you throw certain things out. But early on I said, you know, she was born into a family that wanted all boys. She has a bunch of brothers. They all went to military academy, so they got her into an all boys military academy. And so a lot of the rage that I get to channel, I try to imagine was like a teacher of hers who was a drill sergeant and, you know, was really mean and probably traumatizing to the only girl in school. And then, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of her rage comes from ambition too. I think she doesn't know how to communicate well. She doesn't have the skills to talk about her feelings. And so the way that comes out is that she just tries to win people over by forcing them to do things. And it's obviously not something people should do in real life, but very fun to get to play.
The second season has a preamble where there is a LARPing competition. Tell me about filming that sequence.
Oh, that was so fun. That was such a blast. You know, I got cast on on a workplace comedy. I never thought I would be doing like stunt training and fight training and learning how to work with a sword and an axe. So all of those are really fun surprises and challenges. We did a lot of preparation for those scenes, but when it actually came time to shoot, it was just thrilling. Like it was right around Halloween and it was one of the first episodes back. And so it was really emotional for all of us to get to be around each other again after such a long hiatus because of the pandemic. And then walking into the set and seeing how much it had transformed. All of that was really fun. And I remember just being like, this is a good show. This is going to be something people like watching. And I loved it. And I loved Jo's arc in that episode. I love her death scene. All of that was really, really fun, and just a joy to get to sink my teeth into.
Absolutely. And you sell it very well. Tell me what your favorite moment has been for Jo over season 2.
Oh, that's a great question. I think my favorite moment's actually something you haven't seen yet, but the episode today, I really loved shooting. We have this kind of Nat Geo element to the episode where it's a bottle episode, so we're all in the same room for the entirety of the episode, and Megan Gans, our co-creator, directed the episode, and she took a lot of influence from National Geographic. And so we would rehearse the scenes. They're like they were incredibly long scenes. We would rehearse the scenes like you would a play, and then we kind of shot it the way that you would shoot a play. So we would do these like 10-minute takes with cameras like hidden in offices around the office. So we didn't actually know where the cameras were sometimes. We just had to be in it at all times. And that was a really fun challenge, and something that I haven't done on another show. And then there's a lot of like technical stuff in that scene, in that episode. Danny Pudi and I did a lot of research into sharks. And so we figured out ways to kind of embody sharks as our characters. And we do this really great like spin around each other with where the camera was tracking us on a circular dolly, I can't remember what it's called, dolly track. And and that was all just really fun. I really love anytime you have to like marry the artistic side of acting with the totally technical side of acting, and pulling that off just always feels like you ran a race, and it just feels so redeeming and awesome when you get to watch it and it does get together and you did hit the continuity marks properly. And that was just such a fun challenge to get to do, and Danny was such a perfect partner.
There's an excitement in your face when you talk about the technical aspects of in this case, filmmaking. Is that something that you would like to pursue one day?
Yeah, I've written and directed a couple shorts now. I directed some of the second unit for Mythic Quest season 2. I was in the writer's room for this season. I love it. I really love that stuff. And as an actor, it's just fun. It's fun to get to marry some of my experiences as an actor with my experiences as a director, and understanding sometimes that like the reality of the shot. I think some actors get in their head and they think it's all about like, am I doing a good job? Am I something you want to look at? And in reality, they just need something to edit together. And so you have to give them options, and you have to know how to match the continuity and how to move in a way that is editable, and all of those kinds of things. Is like, it just feels like I'm leveling up in a way by understanding all these new elements of filmmaking.
Excellent. So obviously there's been no announcement on season 3 yet, but fingers crossed there's a season 3. No spoilers, but where would you personally like to take Jo into a third season?
Well, this season, we really watch her struggle with her addiction to power. In season 1, we established that she's drawn to power like a moth to the flame. And then in the second season, we really watch what happens when she ditches her post as David Brittlesby's assistant and moves on to Brad. And we watch her kind of flourish in this new sense of power, and then eventually watch her demise. And I really love imagining how Jo will behave in season 3 after learning about the addiction cycle and just how toxic, being so drawn to power is. I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited to see what they do with it. My number one dream is to get paired up with Charlotte. I really just want to get to work with her. And I think Poppy and Jo would be so fun to watch together.
It would be. That would be great. Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Jessie. Thank you so much for the time and for the performance. You were great. I love the show. And I hope you enjoy the summer now that we're vaccinated.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. Enjoy your summer.
Thank you so much. Take care.